All right, we can move forward.
Yeah. No, there was a couple of interesting events that I have to bring because my mom had influenced my dad to a form of sanity, where she began to get to him a little at a time, and what was so bizarre about my father, who dropped out of school when he was 16, the owner of one of the owners of the Kansas City Monarchs, because Dad didn't drink or smoke, and they really liked him because of that. He was the bus driver for the team, and also.
I'm pretty sure them guys had all kinds of habits, different things.
Yeah, and they gambled.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Bingo Long in the All Stars.
And this had some influence, and it was a contrast between my dad and his brothers. Dad started the brother of Senator Carlson was a PhD who was the chief chemist of the Missouri State Grain Department. And so when Dad left baseball, didn't have a gig, and they had no talents other than playing baseball. So he got a job with his brother, who was his PhD, downtown on Baltimore, and he taught my dad chemistry. And 20 years later, my dad was the chief chemist of the Kansas State Grain Department. And so now, I'm bearing witness to this man, whose brothers who lived this incredibly chaotic, imaginable life, and my dad is over there as a chief chemist, and he'd made all kind of chemical discoveries on discovering protein. He was kind of like a George Washington Carver with a high school education, and this man knew chemistry like you will not believe. And he had PhD students just one after another studying under him and all that kind of stuff. So I'm looking at this, and then one day I was probably, maybe I was probably 5 or 6. No, we had moved uptown. I might have been a little older, maybe 7 or 8. And so my dad hadn't come home yet, and my mom's sister, who was a very, very pretty woman, because they all looked like they were white, she was visiting my mom. And so my dad's brother came into the house drunk, and so he asked, very crudely asked Aunt Benny, when you gonna give me some stuff? And she said, I'm never gonna give you any stuff like that. Quit talking to me like that. And my mom James did quit talking. So he reached over, and she had some ears were pierced, and he took her earrings and just ripped them right off and split her ears right in two. And so my mom was screaming, my aunt was screaming, and just about like in the Hollywood movie, my dad walks in. And Boots, my uncle, is drunk. They got to fighting. And so I was going to help my dad. Because they
How much was you weighing at that time again? So still 102.
No, I grabbed my Uncle Booth by the leg. I just grabbed him by the leg, and started biting him on the leg. And he kept kicking me. And I was so small, he kicked me, and I flew across the room, hit the wall, and slid down the wall. And that cut on my chin.
Still got a memento?
Right there.
Yeah, I see it.
Split my chin wide open, man. And so I, you get a chance to sit down and figure out, no, wait, stop. Well, they're brothers. These guys are brothers. And this vast distance that you're looking at between these men, and the same thing my mother was telling me, she said, you're going to be really little, so I got to develop that thing between your ears. I'm going to make that thing between your ears the biggest part of your body, kid. And I'm watching this, but it starts formulating. And so, my dad ended up shooting him, and he get his gun and shooting my uncle in his leg. And so he didn't kill him, he shot him in the leg with his gun. And the cops came out. We didn't have telephone, but the cops came out and they knew my uncle because they were
Right.
familiar with. I remember I was bleeding when but I do remember them telling me, Eddie, be careful with the gun from now on. Just be careful with the gun, okay? And that's all they did. So my father didn't.
Well, back then, the police really knew everybody in their community, they knew your uncles and what they did and what have you. And they like, just, y'all need to tone that down, or we're gonna have to take somebody. Yeah.
But you asked me how I felt about that. But anyway, you formulate, but it also formulated my concepts about blackness. I mean, and it really did. And I'm not so sure that was so hot and so good, because
Negative.
and I kind of subconsciously wanted to walk away from it. Okay, and so I went to this white school, and I'm out there dealing with all these white kids, and they all of them aren't the same. It's like America is not the same. You got 44% of these fools love Trump, and the rest of them don't. And I experienced that same kind of thing going through high school. There was a cadre of kids that loved me to death, and there was a cadre of kids who hated, hated
just because of your color.
Yeah, they hated the idea of me more than me, and it was hard to pick on, because I was so small. I mean, I didn't fit into this tall black guy.
Most black guys, they tall, menacing,
right? And I was a little bitty guy,
athletic.
Yeah. And the white girls loved me to death, but I couldn't. They one of the things they made me do to get in Bishop Ward, it's a true story. They held me out for a little bit. I had to go to classes on how not to look at a white girl in the eye. Okay.
What?
I had to go to classes. I was not to touch a white girl. I was not to speak to a white girl. I could not look at a white girl in her eyes, dude. And dating was totally out of the question, yada, yada, yada. And he gave me all these rules that I was restricted to. If a white girl spoke to me, I was to nod my head. I was not even sitting, I couldn't say a hi back. I had to nod my head if a white girl spoke to me, okay? So now I'm out in this environment, and now, but I'm accomplishing things. I'm playing football, I'm doing art, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, the National Honor Society, I'm doing all this stuff. And so a lot of these white girls, they tell me later they had these secret love things going on, but they couldn't do anything about it because they had their set of rules on their side too, not to make me comfortable. You know what I mean? And so my ideas began to formulate about these black-white issues, and I kind of walked away because everywhere I went, everywhere I was stationed, I was almost the only black officer on a white base. There might have been another black officer. I don't know how he took things, but in my case, I was in this white universe, and these things that I heard from black people, it was bizarre because I associated this blackness not with black accomplishment, but the negative aspects of what black people did. And I was amazed, like white people are, to see a black guy that speak English, that was accomplished, that was an officer, or did things. You know what I'm saying? And, and so that was a formulation of my personality set and my value set, and it stayed that way. And it was magnified, dude, when this astronaut thing came, because the white community ate me alive, man. They just took me to their bosom, like, oh man, when I was making, I made 2,500 speeches the whole time, 4 years.
And what year was this?
This was started in '63 and then went to '66. Started, 63 to 66.
All right, I was just getting in high school,
right.
And but I'm telling you, I remember all of that astronaut stuff because our public schools, once Kennedy announced, that was part of learning that we were going to beat the Russians, and man, that for you to be in a program at that time in American history is really almost phenomenal. That Kennedy was thinking about even putting. Shoot, we really didn't have no damn civil rights. That's more putting you in.
Yeah, dude. I got that, But Whitney was whispering. He was my
Whitney Young?
He was my whisperer. Whitney and I talked on the phone every day.
Tell our audience a little bit about your relationship with Whitney and who really he was, because our younger audience won't even understand.
Yeah. Well, Whitney Young was the head of the Urban League, right? And he was one of the neatest guys. He made me. I was a concept, an idea in his head, or somebody like me. The idea was like me.
Was he a mentor type or father? What was that relationship?
This guy was so dedicated to Black progress, but he wanted he and Dr. King disagreed. Dr. King was kind of for the people. I mean, it was just Whitney. As a matter of fact, I don't really think they liked each other very much. Whitney had an esoteric about raising the idea of Black progress on another level in science and math and the things that King was just, let's get blacks in school so they can get a high school education and that and then hopefully get a job. Whitney was over here saying I'm going to create a cadre of Black intellectuals, because that's what's going to lead this thing out of bondage. Is we gotta it goes back to W.D. Du Bois 10% kind of thing, where you got a cadre of Black intellectuals, because we were so fragmented and everything. There was no pulling together of this whole Black intellectual scientific body, because we didn't have much of a scientific body to deal with in the first place, right? Okay.
George Washington Carver.
We
mentioned it. Your dad, what you were saying.
But think about it, man. There wasn't enough George Washington Carvers.
Right.
Well, but then to answer your question, Whitney, he saw in me, because he started filling my stuff with stuff that was strategic planning, and so you got to succeed because you're going to lead us scientifically out of bondage, and that's what's going to get us out of bondage. And
get our respect.
Right, but and I think the shortfall at all of it, because it was Whitney's idea, but Whitney got backlash from the Black community because he picked the wrong guy. And what I mean by picked the wrong guy, when it was put up to the test, hey man, the brother didn't go to a Black school, the brother didn't pledge. The brother's old lady looked like she's white. The boy is Catholic, and the boy is about 2 feet tall. What are we gonna do with this? And so, but
where's Mandingo?
Yeah, right. And so Whitney, it was kind of befuddled, but what was going on in my head was what convinced Whitney to stay with me. Do you see what I'm saying? Because he was
having that much backlash.
Yeah. Whitney was guarding people off, man. Yeah. I mean, especially from the Black, and he didn't want them he didn't want them talking like that to people. I mean, because all the brothers, the Tuskegee Airmen, these guys didn't want to have nothing to do with me, man. I mean, no. And all the brothers that had done anything at all, man.
Because you had leapfrog. That's the problem.
I had jumped in the middle of this thing, and somebody.
You wasn't in the middle. You had leapfrog to the front of the line and wasn't in the good old boy system.
Boy, I tell you.
And we got that system just like they got that system.
Right. And man, I caught hell but I didn't expect to catch it from the Black community, because the more I expected, it was interesting. The Black women accepted me readily. The Black males, I mean, I'd go to parties, man. It extended to after I left the program, man. Ooh, hey, brother, who you think you are? Just because you're an astronaut, man. You think you're better than somebody, man.
But you know what that is? That's what has been, I won't say inbred, but that has been the model that they've used to divide us.
Exactly. And that's,
instead of being happy for you,
right, and
being your friend, and well, how did you do this?
Right.
What can we share together
right.
that can get me to this level?
Yeah, right.
We have this.
Right.
Alex Harris used to call it the green eye of envy.
Right. And the craft theory, you can use any of those metaphors. But anyway, I was in the middle of the game. But to kind of move the story along a bit, everything was fine with me, man, and I was doing good. Jaeger was giving me hell, and Jaeger would call me in and say, Dwight, they're gonna kill you. No, I'm serious.
Yeah, I know you serious.
No. He said, Kennedy used you to get the black vote. Okay. Now he got the black vote, so he don't need you no more. So, you're a burden now.
Expendable.
So why don't you quit? And he kept doing it. He reached his pocket and he rolled out this yellow legal paper and he unfolded it. And he had 150 names on it. It wasn't 150 names because they don't have that many lines. I captured that later. He said, I got 150 white boys that should have your place, that are more qualified than you. And I said, well, Colonel Yeager, let me explain something to you. On the outside of your door there, because we had just graduated from test pilot school, I said, on that side of your door are the grade rankings for those are the last rankings for the test pilot school. And I'm 7th out of 17. I said, there are 10 white boys that are lower than I am in intellectual, whatever you guys are doing.
At the end of the day,
why am I number 7 out of 17? I don't mean nothing. I don't mean a damn thing. I don't mean nothing. That's
well, why you got it?
Yeah. Why was you supposed to? Yeah. And so the guy told me, he said, Dwight, here's what's going to happen to you, Captain Dwight. And there's a plan afoot. They're going to send your ass up into space and they're going to leave you there. And I said, you know what? That's a damn good idea. And he looked at me really funny. I said, because my kids can go out on the lawn and every night there goes Daddy. You know what? You know who came to my mind when Malcolm X came to my mind when you just said that. No, you said, there go Daddy. Yeah, and he didn't think it was funny. He didn't think that was funny at all. And then that's enough of that. I said, well, that's as crazy as because he was upset about my brashness.
Right. But I understand.
Because he'd come up with all this crazy off the wall stuff, man. This is going to happen to you. I said, well, fine. Well, let it happen. Let it take its course and let it happen. And then so he used to bring these great big guys in. The biggest guys he could find because he thought I was going to try to kick his ass. And that was an Air Force trick all through this thing. That they would never let me sit down unless there were a bunch of real because they thought black people go crazy. And they're sitting in there very uncomfortable. And a couple of them wrote books about it, how idiotic it was, and the things that Jaeger was saying to me, and all that kind of stuff.
But Jaeger was, to me, because in sports and different things, these people were just products of their time.
Yeah, well, look, man.
How did you feel about him personally?
No, okay. First of all, Jaeger grew up on a farm in West Virginia. Okay. He joined the Air Force, Army Air Corps when he's 15. He told him he was 17. Okay. And the guy never finished high school. Okay. Went to pilot training. His first mission over Germany, he shot down 5 airplanes. And here it's probably 16, and shot down 5 German.
But you know what you said earlier in this interview, how farm boys made the best pilots.
That's my point. And the guy goes, "Oh, he's fearless," And I came up, check this out, man, because I'm into brain stuff. I mean, I study the brain, all that kind of stuff like that, And
Dr. DeBakey.
I get into all this genetic stuff, I didn't realize, and there are people who are born without a fear gene.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, there are people that are born without a fear gene. There are people that are fearless.
Fight or flight.
There are people that are born without a fear gene, and I did a whole bunch of research, and he's one of those people. That guy would do anything. The man would do anything in defiance. That mission that Jaeger shot all those airplanes down, his flight, gone home. So come on, let's get out of here. And he's
by
there,
himself.
and he's by himself. He's in there and going doing all this stuff and bam, bam, and shooting it, you know. But he became a hero, I mean, a crazy hero. But you know, but I say,
But see, we don't know these personalities. You know what I think of Chuck Yeager? I'm in New York. They got the automobile show, and then they got that the fastest car or the fastest thing.
Right.
And I see, and again, how history, how everything is framed. I'm looking at him as my leader.
Right, exactly. But the guy was very big. He was a junior Trump. I mean, the guy was extremely bigoted to the extent, but he was choosy bigoted. Now there were black pilots that he liked, just because they were really they were as good as he was as pilots. There was a couple of them, you know, and there was one guy that went through test pilot school before me. His name was White, Captain White, little skinny guy. And I studied that guy like you won't believe it. I don't know what the hell happened to him, but he was a first. But back in the day, see, the test pilot school was 6 weeks long. Now it's a year, 18 months. I mean, it's all complicated and all that kind of stuff. So, but Yeager was, in my case, I should not have been there. I mean, and it was abusive to him that I was even because nobody.
It was offensive to him, probably.
Well, no, the president didn't call him. That's what it was, you know. And he says, "I pick the new stars and stuff. I do this, you know. I'm the one that can make that decision." And he told me we had a lot of, you know. And then I'd ask him. I said, "Colonel, can I speak freely?" I would say that all the time. Can I speak? And a couple of times I just took my bars off and threw them on the floor. I said, "Now can I speak and not as a military officer?" And I just let into him, man. I said, this is all bullshit. I said, you tell me all this stuff about what I can't do and how I'm going to die, and, you know. And guys, I said, Dave Scott and the the top pilots from West Point and these guys, they're the only ones in our class that crashed and damn near killed themselves. I didn't crash and kill myself. Dave Scott and Mike Adams did. Destroyed an F-104.
But see, if this type stuff is not talked about, can't no one say, well, Mr. Nelson, you said this. This comes from the horse's mouth. And when we look at how they portray these things in the movies and who these people are, it's very easy for us to believe. This guy wouldn't hurt a dog. This guy was on your side and all of that. So I think it's very important for you really to give it raw, you know, in connection with this type of interview. I've tried to interview African Americans in the military that participated in the Vietnam War or what have you, and a lot of them won't come on. It was too painful, and I'm like, do you want someone else telling this story? Because it's in their light. It's not going to be what it really was.
No, I agree. So, but anyway, dude, I graduated from test pilot school, and then Whitney really got to work because
shaping your personality and how you
and you know and Whitney was not a military guy, but I ran into I could not find a black mentor out of all these Tuskegee Airmen that are now colonels and Bill Davis would not see me.
What?
I didn't have nothing to talk to that young man about. General Bill Davis would not speak to me. They tried to get an audience with him just as an introductory thing, and I was in the middle of this fight with President Johnson, and Bill Davis wouldn't give me an audience. I have nothing to say to the young man. You know, it's his own fault. And if he's got any kind of problems, he brought them on himself. Now, brought them on myself. I didn't ask to do this. That's what upset me, man. I did not ask to do this. I didn't volunteer for this. I thought those guys were nuts. No, them astronaut guys were crazy. I had a solid Air Force career.
What do you think about that? Because all that smacks is, he didn't pay his dues because he didn't get there the way we got there.
Exactly.
Was that what you felt?
Yeah. Well, you know, that came later because at the time the fear of all this stuff is going on. You know, you're just in wonderment about and you know. And it goes back to maybe I shouldn't have gone to that white school. You know, you had something like that, or maybe I shouldn't have. You know, because I came to the table with a different value set, you know, and I didn't let any of the stuff that was going on intimidate me. I did not let this because had I been allowed to sulk and get fun, crying my beer and said those guys don't like me because I'm black, and I mean, if I had let that overcome me, I would never have succeeded. I just ignored it, you know, and so that upset a lot of people that I ended up coming out of the tunnel because I had people tell me later that, oh man, they tried to get me there too, man, but man, I'm gonna let them mess up my life. I don't, you know, and so I said, well, I did, and I went through it, you know, and I ended up all the better for it. But the whole issue is that I was fine, and I was doing fine. Now, remember I told the story about Diego telling the white boys not to
Socialize with you.
Well, what began to happen, something happened. They looked, these white boys, they looked back and said, you know what, Dwight, I'm in and out of the White House all the time, right? So he said, Dwight, you know, Kennedy is going to put Dwight in space.
I need to get with him. I already know what it's looking like. I don't know what Yeager's talking about. He done got his. I need to get with this brother so I can be in that picture. Yeah.
No, that's how they pick the astronauts for the most part. It's a buddy system.
Yeah.
Yeah. If somebody we're going to NASA and they like you, yeah, he's good. He's a good guy. He's a good guy. And then that's how it worked. And so these guys started coming through the back door. Being my secret friend.
Yeah.
You know, so now November 22nd, 1963, man, we're going through full mission simulations up at Boeing, where you get into a spacesuit and they got them simulated. It's just like all the noise and the feeling. You launch into space and you go into orbit and you go through all
Give you
the
G's forces too.
Yeah, they're kind of simulated. Yeah. And you're in a full spacesuit and everything, and I was sitting there waiting my turn. I hadn't gone on yet, but all the other times when you go to these companies, you know, these guys, you go to the executive room and you're drinking caviar and champagne, and these big corporate presidents are trying to romance you because they're trying to sell products to you.
Right.
You know. And guys are sneaking up and how do you like the caviar? Yeah, you know, we make being friendly, and every now and then we sit down and we start, how's your wife and how's your kids? And so Kenny Ware walks in and he says, they just assassinated the president, and we think they got the vice president too. And out of my group, there were 4 Catholics, and we just happened to be sitting in the room, and they used to tease us about being Kennedy Catholics, you know. And all of the 4 of us said, man, that ain't funny.
Big thing. Most people don't understand. I was in the 5th grade. There's big hoopla about Kennedy when he was running, being allegiance to the Pope verse. Yeah. You know, that almost stopped him from getting elected.
Exactly. So anyway, the 4 Catholic guys say, man, that ain't funny. And said, that's true. You know, and man, everything stopped.
Time stopped.
The training was canceled. We adjourned to the executive dining room, and they had set up all the caviar and champagne already. Everything was already set up for when we got the lobster, the shrimp, and all that stuff. And man, it was morbid. So we all went out. For the first time in weeks, I sat at the table by myself. And the whole conversation, that far away, Dwight's done. Dwight is over. The boy's gone. And I'm listening to this stuff, man. So we flew back to Edwards, okay? And he got killed Friday. I flew back to Edwards, man. Went to my box Monday morning, and I had a set of orders that they shipping me to Germany. Shipping me out of the program, out of the country, shipping me to Germany. Got to get rid of this cat, man. I mean, Kennedy's gone. Got to get rid of this guy. And so I jump in. I'm surprised they gave me an airplane. I jumped in the airplane and flew straight to Washington, D.C., got a hold of Whitney. We went to see Bobby Kennedy, and Bobby killed the orders. Said, don't worry, you're not going anyplace, but you got to be cool now because President Johnson is on the purge. Everybody from the Ivy League, and to get anything in relationship to the Ivy League is gone, you know. And so now, I left Washington. Those orders were killed. By the time I got back, dude, and landed the airplane, it was late in the day. Next day I went in there and a new set of orders shipped me to Canada. And in both of these jobs, I was going to be the American liaison officer for the Canadian Air Force or the German Air Force or space, and they don't have space program, and neither one of them. And so now war started between Whitney Young and everybody's choosing sides. So President Johnson brought his black kitchen cabinet in. Hobart Taylor and his group. Hobart Taylor was a lawyer from Texas. And now, when I was announced, Hobart Taylor was my host in Washington D.C. He squared me around, being proud of me, and introduced me to the elite of Washington D.C. There was 7 of them brothers in there, including Hobart, and Johnson was like, "What do I do?" Dwight's got to go. So first of all, the boy ain't tall enough. He ain't black enough. He said, "Think about those destitute brothers on the corner of Philadelphia. Dwight's gonna walk up to them and save them. You think they're gonna listen to that little bitty guy say anything and do anything?" And the answer is no. It's got to be a tall, black, the blacker, and the taller the better. And so the brothers threw me down the river. And so Johnson didn't know.
Did you have a paddle?
No, man. No. But, hey, man.
They just throw you down the river straight.
Yeah, straight up, man. And so in the meantime, Johnson's reaction to all this, man, was that, he got together with his generals, and General Terry Hume called me in this room. He said, "Captain Dwight, you got one of them globes that spin around?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, you go find one of them globes that just spin around and close your eyes, and wherever you put your finger, that's where we're sending you. And you're going to get a check every month. But we need 3 years, okay? Because the president has to have his own black astronaut, okay? And we need your help, okay? And we want you to go home, the president wants you to go home and write a report of everything for how you got in this thing, everything you did through the whole 3 years you've been in this thing. And he needs it to as a job description for his guy. Okay, and so I did, man. I went down there and I wrote all this stuff out in this big long report, And Whitney erased it, but the last sentence on the thing is, "The other words, Mr. President, he's got to be super nigger."
Who wound up getting that?
No, the president got it, but Whitney.
No, I'm saying, who wound up filling that bill?
Huh?
Did they have
black?
black?
Oh no, Bob. I can't think of his name. I'll think of his name in a minute. But yeah, they found a guy, and with all my recommendations and stuff, man, they found a guy, and he was the only PhD. I said it'd be better if he had a PhD because, you get criticized.
Right. Well, he doesn't have that.
Yeah, right.
Chuck Yeager barely got a high school diploma, but that's all right.
Anyway, Bob Lawrence was his name. And they grabbed Bob and sent him to school right quick and got him a PhD, And Bob was not he wasn't a fighter jock. I mean, he was a nice guy, tall, all the description, taller than everybody, and dark. Didn't have black skin, but he was a dark brother, and he had got his PhD. And Bob was in training down at Test School, got killed right away. And so now.
He got killed in training?
Yeah, because, they're down there. I mean, these guys down there cheating death like you won't believe, man, doing things that are just crazy.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and, taking an F-104, 35,000 feet, shutting the engine off.
To let you know, I've watched a lot of test pilots and a lot of, because I love to get knowledge.
Right.
And you had to have balls of steel to fool around test pilot with those, with the new fighters, the new engines, you don't know whether these systems work, and I've seen a lot of them get killed on camera.
Yeah, I know. Well, but anyway, I mean, we got to fast forward a little bit because I took them up on their offer. I said, okay. But the president, you're going into space, Captain Dwight. The president promises you a mission, But our issue is we got to have our guy go first. We can't have a Kennedy guy go first. Okay. But you're going into space, so don't worry about it. Everything's fine.
Did you believe him?
And so
at the time,
no.
Given the atmosphere, given what you had went through,
Well,
where was your faith in what the government or your people were saying?
Well, the timing. Well, he wouldn't be president anymore after this thing. So but I picked up on that. But so what I did, I said okay, and so and he said no more speeches. I was on the speaking circuit, and I was talking all the time. No more speeches, no more radio interviews, no more television. No more, because man.
One thing I'm interested in, gotta interrupt you again. Were they paying you to speak?
Oh, no, I couldn't. No, you can't.
You can't.
No,
All right.
no,
Nowadays.
People. No, man. All the speeches I told I was making, they got stuffing money in my overcoat pocket to see if I would spend it or if I'd cash the check. See, because that's against military law.
All right.
So, but they're jamming money. I mean, they'd go.
Glad I brought that up so our audience know.
Yeah, oh yeah, man, yeah, and they, especially if I had an overcoat or they'd walk up to me and
try to get in your hand.
Yeah, and they would do stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And but if I took it and I spent it, and so the money I would just let it sit. Because I didn't know,
what was going on.
Yeah, but the checks, that they could trace a check.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And so, but anyway, all that kind of stuff was going on. So, but it ended up biting me in the butt. So what I did, I said, let me get off the grid. Okay, I made a deal. No more speeches, no more TV appearances, yada yada yada. Because my speeches I'm a military officer. My speeches got very militant, very political. Because that's what. And you can't hold things back. They want you to talk about all this racial progress and all that kind of stuff, but you end up talking about what happened to you. You know what I mean? And so I chose to go to a top secret base at Los Alamos. They don't have a newspaper in Alamogordo, so I said fine, because I could get back in fighters. I can live a nice little private life, and I mean.
And that's halfway off the grid.
Yeah, we're totally off the grid, man. And I said they didn't even have a grocery store in Alamogordo, and so I said, and I was happy, man. And I was flying 5 airplanes again, and I was in a universe. Everybody loved me, and a lot of people down there didn't even know all this stuff. I came on the base. Some of the guys didn't even know it, which was good, And so next thing you know, I go to the flight line one day, dude. And my little crew chief, little black guy, 19-year-old black kid, and he said, Clark Dwight, I'm scared, I don't know what to do, And he was kind of crying a little bit. I said, what's wrong with you, man? He said, well, two guys came right down with black suits on, and they asked me, what did I want, money or more stripes on my arm to fix your airplane so it wouldn't come back? I said, what are you talking about? He said, no, sir, I mean it. These guys are trying to kill you. I said, man, I said, the kid, that's, and the guy starts really crying, man. And I said, well, stop crying and don't worry about it. You don't have to worry. I'm taking it out of your hands. So I went to the flight line and I said, I'm not flying. And he said, well, you sick? I said, no, I'm not sick. He said, we got to put you on report. You can do any damn thing you want. I'm not flying. So I went to my office, man, and I wrote a resignation. I said, I'm out of here, And man, it took the Pentagon 3 hours, boy. Got a Twix went in there, man. 3 hours later, that thing came back. You're not going any place. You're going 21 years to the stockade. You're going to jail. And man, and the whole base went. They backed it up. The next Twix was. We will make you an offer to go get a graduate degree in engineering at Wright Pat and avid, which is Air Force Institute of Technology.
Wright Pat?
Yeah.
See, I went to school at Central State University in Wilberforce, Ohio, and they had a Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
Yeah, I was there
out of Dayton.
I was there for 4 years. Yeah, and so anyway, and when I said no, then they pursued this bringing charges against me that resulted in 21 years in jail.
How can they do that if you resign from the Air
Oh
Force?
no, dude. No,
Oh, it's no resigning. It's no.
No, what happens is if you commit a crime, and my crime was, check it out, man. My crime was going into the White House without military supervision, talking to a president, talking to a senator. There's a law in the military that you cannot talk to anybody above your chain of command without going through the chain of command, and you got to go through your immediate commander, to that commander, and that commander.
Silence.
And I got 3 years of going in and out of Congress, hanging out with senators and congressmen, and talking to them, hanging out in their offices, going to going to Georgetown for eating with all these guys, man, in this astronaut thing, and it was against the law. And so they tried to throw me, they really did, they tried to throw me in jail.
Well, hold it. I know that they did. Well, what I want to do is now I want to cut.
This is brought to you by Kansas City Business Association, working to improve our community.